Thank you all for being here on this Wednesday morning. For most of us, we are really excited to have such a large turnout from around the country and even around the world. My name is Jeremy Reed. I'm the Suite for ArcGIS Solutions Lead for Geospot. Geospot is an international geospatial services provider and an Esri partner here in the US. Just so you know, this presentation is being recorded, and that recording will be sent to you all after the fact within a day or two. I am joined today by Dave Gillum, who's the GIS manager over at Anne Arundel County, and I'll give Dave a moment to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Dave Gillum. I'm with Anne Arundel County, and we're basically a moderate-sized jurisdiction kind of between Baltimore and Washington, around Annapolis, Maryland on the Chesapeake Bay.
Great. Thanks, Dave. So this webinar, we're going to shoot to run about 30 minutes and leave some time for a Q&A session at the end. If you have questions that come up during the course of the presentation, please throw those in the Q&A box that you'll see on the Zoom interface. If you can't find that and end up throwing them in the chat, that's okay too. And if I miss any that you've thrown in the chat, I'll follow up with you after the fact. So please stay tuned if you don't get your question answered live here today. So Dave and I are going to be talking to you about Anne Arundel County, Maryland's journey with Suite for ArcGIS, and more broadly about how Suite can help GIS departments really improve the quality and ease with which they are offering GIS services to other entities within their organizations and outside of their organizations. To begin, there we go. To begin, I just want to introduce you to kind of what I'm defining as the quote unquote modern GIS department. And this is a department or a dispersed group of GIS professionals within an organization that collectively offer GIS expertise and services to that organization and to the other entities that that organization interfaces with. And for our purposes today, the modern GIS department is spending somewhere between 10 and 25% of its time on quality control and quality assurance. This can look like post-processing after digitization workflows. It can look like ensuring that data sets are in compliance with multiple different legal frameworks for data compliance, which can be a pretty time-consuming and complex process depending on the sorts of data that you're working with. And it can also look like making sure that data that's coming in from the field is being properly integrated into existing data sets, properly cleaned, properly quality controlled. Among many other forms of quality control and quality assurance, these are often some of the most time consuming. And the modern GIS department, as we're defining it today, is also one that's supporting a large number of internal clients primarily. So they are offering GIS services to other folks within the same organization that are using those services, whether that's direct management of another entity's GIS assets, or analysis and raw data outputs, or higher value added visualizations or paper maps for decision making. These other entities are using the services that the GIS department is providing to go about their work in a more efficient or more data-informed way. And there's a lot of time involved in both of these things. Obviously, if you're spending 10 to 25% of your total time on quality control and quality assurance, that is taking time away from a lot of other forward-looking things that your department could be focused on. And the nature of supporting internal clients is that there's a lot of time lost in communication. Oftentimes folks are interfacing over email in regards to data updates or new data set additions, or informing the GIS department about data omissions. And for some departments, those workflows and communication resources have been standardized. And even then, it still takes a good deal of time and attention to be adequately serving those other entities within the organization. And so this is really where Suite for ArcGIS comes in. And most GIS managers, or many GIS managers, of which there are several on the call today, are folks who might rather be spending that time upgrading their GIS systems or training staff to do more value-added things rather than just route quality control workflows or responding to data update emails. And these two processes together can really distract from the development and forward-thinking development of a GIS department. So Suite for ArcGIS, if you haven't heard of it, is a browser-based application that was released in 2020. It comes from Esri UK, which is the UK company of the Esri kind of global entity. And it leverages automations and a super intuitive, user-friendly user interface plus rule-based quality control to provide an online user-friendly editing environment that is both inviting for non-GIS personnel who have no formal training in GIS, and is welcoming of GIS professionals who are looking to benefit from automations and streamlined workflows. So for our two benefits that we're focusing on today, of course, Suite for ArcGIS can do a large number of things for a GIS department, but we're looking at quality control and we're looking at internal services today. As far as quality control goes, Suite offers a number of features, of which I've pulled out 4, that can really improve an organization's ability to manage its quality control. So first is that Suite offers you the ability to leverage feature stencils to standardize the geometry that is being used across data sets. So whether it's an entity within your organization or your GIS department itself that's creating repeated geometric features, you can use a stencil to automate and make that a one-click process. The biggest thing that Suite brings to the table is the ability to set pre-developed topological rules that control the validity of new data that's being entered into the system or being edited within the system. And these topological rules give you the capacity to quality control data before it even comes in the door, which really, really helps on the back end when you're taking a second look at it and you don't have to spend hours making sure that you don't have splices or you don't have slivers between polygons or significant or overlaps at all between, say, parcel boundaries. The other thing that Suite offers that can really help with quality control is user-specific permissions that allow you to specify on a user basis who can edit, who can add features, who can delete features, who can modify attributes. And it even allows you to set up geofencing around user edits. So some folks are only have the ability to edit within a certain region. And then finally, there is the capacity within Suite for ArcGIS to do direct branch versioning within the application itself and manage that in-app, allowing you as a GIS manager the ability to really leverage oversight over when edits are coming in and which version they're coming into. On the services side of things, Suite allows you to build custom tailored applications and deliver them as a service to another entity within or outside of your organization. And this is accomplished through a number of features, one of which is the user-friendly interface that I was talking about, this intuitive editing interface that allows even folks without any formal GIS experience, with maybe just an hour of training within your organization, to directly edit data in a safe and comfortable environment. The other thing that makes it a really, really good service provision tool is that it comes preloaded with several use case specific templates and the ability to create your own templates going forward, so that if you have similar use cases, but you want to be able to provide a different application on short notice, maybe a 1 or 2 hour turnaround time, you can easily roll out those applications and meet the need before even the next business day. The kind of very similar component here that fits well with the templating idea is the configurability of Suite's user interface and the application features that you're able to add. So it's entirely configurable. You can add whatever widgets you prefer, and that can allow you to streamline the application experience for the exact needs that you are serving, so that folks aren't having to wade through features that they don't have a use for, or that might be confusing, and they're able to just get straight to the meat of their issue right off the bat. And then finally, Suite allows you to meet far more advanced needs than you might be able to get directly out of the box. Suite offers all of this previous functionality that I've been describing straight out of the box, but then it also integrates directly with arcade scripting to allow you to meet even more advanced functionality needs. So I wanted to give you all the opportunity to hear from Dave today about Anne Arundel County's journey with Suite for ArcGIS. And Anne Arundel has the distinction of being the first implementation of Suite for ArcGIS in the US. There were several others before in the UK, which is where this technology was first developed. But Anne Arundel County is really in a privileged and unique position here. So Dave, I am curious if you've told us a little bit about what GIS looks like within Anne Arundel County, but I'd like to hear a little bit more. Like what sort of department are you working within? What are your general needs, your use cases, et cetera?
So we are a decentralized organization. There's probably about 50 GIS users throughout the county, but I only have 3 staff to maintain all the infrastructure and provide those folks support. So you can imagine when they're publishing apps or publishing data, it's a lot of overhead for us to essentially be the gatekeeper to push that out to the public. So we saw the Esri Community Base Maps program using this application, and it looked extremely smooth for basically web editing, and also the fact that we could apply these rules and stencils that would essentially force the user to build content the way we needed it to be built to help us cut down on the QC times. We have quite a large staff of folks who've been with the county for a while, and they're having a hard time transitioning from ArcMap to Pro and Portal. And this is an opportunity for us to kind of skip that learning curve and let them focus on adding content specifically for their organization. So we chose a couple of pilot groups, our Recreation and Parks group and our police redistricting boundary group. And luckily we've been able to contract with Esri UK using the Insights US Communities program, and we've had multiple conversations with Esri UK directly, helping us support this project, and GeoSpock has been building out some of the templates for us, so it's been great so far.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. So I want to give you the opportunity as the audience to see these applications in action, but because this is probably a new application for all of you, I just want to show you a little bit of the wrapping around the package first. So this is the first screen I'll show you. This is just the app selector screen. It might look fairly familiar if you're used to working with in ArcGIS Online. Each one of these is an application that I can click on. I also want to show you what the builder experience looks like. So Suite has 2 primary components. It has the builder, and then it has the applications that you build with the builder. Think of it like a factory and outputs from the factory. So within the builder, this is the process of creating your application. It's all button-based, toggle-based. You can get in there and do arcade scripting to do fancier things, but I can set my data rules for validation right here. I can hook in my data from a web map via Portal or via ArcGIS Online right here. I have the capacity to determine things like how and when edits are saved, or the overall look and feel of the application. I can configure custom widgets here, create my own widgets, add in pre-built widgets, do all of this stuff without any coding experience and deliver a product really quickly because I'm working within what's in this case called a wireframe that's already preloaded with all of this functionality, and deliver something really quickly to that internal client that might need an application. But this is really the meat of Suite for ArcGIS. This is the user interface. This is the editing interface. And the first thing that I want to point you to is how few buttons are on the screen right now. So this is my side panel for widgets. This is my top panel for navigation and action selection. I have some grayed out, undo, redo, copy and paste buttons over here that are grayed out because I'm not editing currently. And then I have a really simple snapping toggle on, toggle off, and some deeper layer settings here. But I think that one of the really key things to point to is that nothing is hidden, even here when I go into some more advanced settings, nothing's hidden more than one layer deep or one menu layer deep. So it's not hard for a new user to figure out the system that they're working with. You style your maps within ArcGIS Online or within Portal in the same way that you might be already familiar with. And then you have that data to work with here. And editing is as simple as clicking new, choosing the layer that I want to edit from, picking the type of feature that I want to create, and moving forward. So before I go too deep here, Dave, can you tell us a little more about the Recreation and Parks Department use case here and what they were kind of hoping for and what you were hoping for to be able to serve them with this application?
So Rec and Parks is very typical in the county where they have one or two users who can assist with creating GIS data. They do work off of a park asset inventory, but those two users are experienced in ArcMap and have had a hard time transitioning to Pro. So our hope was to essentially provide them with this interface, set the topology rules in place, give them the stencils to build out the park inventory information, and then link it to the inventory and keep it as a user interface that was very simple for them and something that would essentially provide a product to us that's ready to go into publication without us having to clean it like we've had to do in the past. As a matter of fact, many times we've had to provide consultant services to go and capture some of the data for them. And certainly our own staff has done a lot of data collection and updates. And our intent now is to hand that process totally over to them.
Great. So Dave mentioned two key things there, which were topological rules and stencils. And I just want to show you an example of both of those. So there's a rule built in here that says you cannot have a trail outside of a park boundary. So say I'm an errant editor and I'm drawing a trail through this neighborhood, and I say, okay, that looks good, check. It's going to say, please wait, applying edit. And it's not going to allow me to do that because it has violated that rule that it cannot be outside of the park boundary. Similarly, we have a stencils layer here where you can drag and drop a pre-built stencil, for example, a high school football field. I don't think this particular park has any high school football fields in it, but if it did, you could easily create a graphical map-based representation of that and then reuse them across all of your recreation features throughout the entire county. So baseball fields, football fields, even, if you want to get as far in as, a two-dimensional representation of a park bench and just recreate that stencil. Depends how fancy you want to get, but you can do it here.
And if you're familiar with the community-based maps program, Esri uses an extensive list of stencils to allow you to basically build the content there on the fly.
Yeah, and these stencils are as simple as creating them within an editing session on a new layer, and then registering that layer to this application and saying, hey, this is where my stencils live. So it's pretty user-friendly. It's maybe one rung up the ladder from straight out of the box functionality with Suite. The other component that I will point you to that's pretty interesting is the ability to have custom charts within Suite for ArcGIS, and you'll see that a little more in the next application that we're going to look at. So I won't explain that too much right now. We have a find widget in here that has been thrown in. So we could say, find point type. I want to find benches on the search. And it's going to come up with all the points that have been labeled as a bench. I can click one, it's going to zoom me right to it. And as with editing in ArcGIS, desktop or ArcPro, whatever you're using, everything's going to be based on the attributes that are in those data layers. So the cleaner your attributes are, the cleaner this process will be for your end user. But there's a lot of functionality in here that's built around making it a pretty seamless process, even on relatively messy data sets. So the next application that we're going to show you is this police redistricting scenario modeler. And so this is the builder interface. We would say launch. I've already loaded it here. And Dave, can you just introduce us to kind of the concept behind this application?
So the use case here was that our police users have moved to ArcPro already, and they were used to using the Esri free add-in for redistricting in the past on ArcMap, but Esri decided not to move that forward to the Pro platform. Now they have a much more robust enterprise level redistricting app that's really kind of out of our reach. So we were hoping that Suite could provide the redistricting service to allow us to essentially realign our police service areas to look at calls for service and make sure that these are basically optimized. We go through this process routinely on a timely manner, and we're basically looking for a solution because Esri wasn't providing one to replace the ArcMap solution.
Great. So let me just show you a little bit of how that kind of redistricting scenario modeling looks. So I can select a feature here. I can look at that feature here in my selection pane. This is police post 4C5. I can come here and I could rename it if I wanted to. I could say, it's 4C5 test or 4C5 scenario 1. But really what we're interested in here is reshaping the boundaries and seeing what happens on our chart. So I'm gonna go back to our chart here, and you'll see we have 4C3, 4C4, and 4C5. I am going to send the boundaries of this police post on a deep dive north, and it's going to recalculate our chart in real time. And once it loads, you will see that those numbers have been adjusted. So now 4C4 and 4C5 are looking far more similar in calls for service count. You can also do something like say, hey, I'd like to actually split this into two separate ones and draw a polygon around the new one. And it is going to draw two separate ones, which I can select independently. And these are both going to be called 4C5 at the moment, but then I could come in and very simply reattribute it, and you would see that appear on the chart.
And you're obviously seeing very generalized layers that Jeremy and his group built for us as a kind of template to build off of, because our true layers are all secure and couldn't be provided to them.
Yeah, correct. And that's something that really should be reinforced here is what you're seeing both on the Parks app and on this police redistricting application. These are development environment applications. So you're not seeing the actual sensitive data that was cleaned before we built these things. That I think is a good basic introduction to how each of these applications is serving the specific use case. I wanted to show you just really quickly that you have some just really basic, nice, intuitive controls here. So, I can toggle transparency on the fly. I can just turn layers off and on. And I wanted to take you back 1 second to the Recreation and Parks application and show you this feature called plans. So I've already loaded one of these in, but you'll see there's this JPEG image that shows up that I have literally dragged and dropped into this box here, and brought in and georeferenced on the fly. So let me show you how that works really quickly, because I think this is really cool. And it's like one of the most user-friendly georeferencing programs I've ever used. And I can just drag this around. If I don't want the aspect ratio to remain the same, I can click skew and pull it in any direction, or I can say advanced, and I can actually georeference it with tie points. And then once I've got it in there, I know I've got plans on the map here, and it can just sit here hanging out behind my data as I might need to be able to georeference and then digitize information off of it. So that, I just wanted to make sure that you all got to see that. So there are a number of other use cases that are in play with Suite for ArcGIS in the US, and certainly a large number in the UK. One of the largest success stories with Suite for ArcGIS to date was when the British Ordnance Survey, which is the UK equivalent of the United States Geological Survey, the British Ordnance Survey switched their editing and data collection process to Suite for ArcGIS. And we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of users, millions of points, and really a super advanced degree of customization and functionality. So Suite can go across all levels of the spectrum. There's other really interesting use cases in developing automated addressing workflows. There are some excellent pre-built templates for natural resource management and forestry and agriculture. There are some obvious use cases that you might have seen for trails and conservation coming out of that recreation and parks application there. Tax assessor and parcel management are really, really high potential use cases, given Suite's ability to directly manage the topological relationships between parcel boundaries and things like an underlying roads layer or other property layers. And there's, I think, very interesting potential applications for disaster management or disaster mitigation planning, where lots of different departments are coming together with different levels of expertise to interact with the same data set within an environment that allows that to be an easy, facilitated process. So, stay tuned in the future. Any of these use cases might be the next demo that we do. And I wanted to ask Dave what, beyond these first two recreation and parks and police redistricting apps in Anne Arundel County, what he thinks Anne Arundel County might be moving towards with Suite for ArcGIS there.
We've struggled for a while to try to put together a migration and training plan to move users to ArcPro, and it's really difficult for technically challenged users who are used to the way things have been done for the last 15 years. So Suite provides us that opportunity to hopefully move this out as a standard platform throughout the county. We probably have another at least 10 agencies where we have resources that are not terribly proficient with Pro yet. And what we found is that the users find this interface more comfortable to work in rather than trying to migrate to something like Pro and utilizing tasks there. And also we've seen that by applying these rules as they're creating the data, it is saving us in QC time, so that the data sets that they provide to us, we don't have to put a specialist on it for a few hours to clean it up before we publish it. I mean, it is saving us time there. So we're very happy with what we have so far, and we're looking forward to basically expanding its capabilities, getting it to the level that it's currently used in like the community-based maps program.
That's awesome. I'm really, really happy to hear that. Thank you, Dave. So now we're going to open it up for some questions from the audience. And before we go there, I just wanted to say that I'm always happy to receive emails with questions or comments about potential functionality or musings about what use cases might be appropriate. You can reach me at jeremy.reed, R-E-A-D, @geospoc.com. You can also just go to geospoc.com/suite4arcgis and find the website there that has a lot of good information. Esri UK also has fantastic information on their website. And you can feel free to shoot me a call at the number on the screen right there. We are able to offer a 30-day free trial of Suite for ArcGIS if you're interested in doing some assessment for yourself. So you can sign up for that on the website at geospoc.com/suite for ArcGIS. And if you'd like to just reach out directly to me to inquire about that, please feel free to do so as well. So if you do have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat or in the Q&A right now. It looks like nothing has been put in the question and answer at the moment, so I will just hang on for a moment. Oh, so one member of the audience is interested in knowing about the cost for Suite. So Suite is licensed as a premium application. So the builder is licensed annually, and the seat licenses for users are also licensed annually, and those are separate expenses. And it's licensed based on the size of, for counties, it's licensed based on population size. Similarly for cities, et cetera, for other organizations, it's a similar hierarchy based on size to try to keep it accessible to folks across the spectrum. The other thing that you should know, so if you're interested in knowing a specific price, just please reach out with your details, and I'd be happy to help you out. The other thing that you should know is that GeoSpoc, in order to help facilitate access to Suite, especially with budgets being really tight right now, GeoSpoc has actually gone to Esri UK and received permission to build applications as one-off services for clients. So if you have one use case for Suite and you really want to roll with that, but aren't interested in taking on the expense for the larger program, please reach out, because we can meet you where you're at with custom built applications that are going to do a really nice job for you. And it looks like that's all we have for the Q&A at the moment. If anyone else has anything, I'll just throw in one thing while I'm waiting that came up on the last webinar that I hosted, which was just how Suite for ArcGIS integrates with the rest of your GIS system. So if you have ArcGIS Online or you have Portal, Suite is a really seamless integration. It's pulling directly from your configured web maps straight into Suite, and then you're able to run your topological rules on the Suite end of it. So you are able to leverage the full investment that you've already made in your ArcGIS system, and then just build Suite out on top as kind of the cherry on top. So I think that is all that we have time for. And if anyone else has questions, please do throw those at me via email or just shoot me a call. And if it's a question for Dave, I'm sure that he would also be happy to jump in and answer. So
Sure, no problem.
yeah, and thank you, Dave, for taking the time to be here today. I know everyone here, audience and you, are very busy, so I really do appreciate your time and attention. Have a great week, and we hopefully will be here